Good afternoon, I'm Nicola Taylor from ePlacement Scotland, and I am joined today by Alasdair Currie from multipliedby. Alasdair is a recent supporter of the ePlacement Scotland programme, and he is going to answer some questions today that I'm going to put to him regarding the process and the ePlacement Scotland service. Good afternoon, Alasdair, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me this afternoon. I'm just going to run through some questions, and if you could answer them as honestly as possible, that would be appreciated for both ePlacement Scotland and for our potential employers out there. So if I can firstly start by asking, how did you hear about the ePlacement Scotland service?
It was a chance meeting at a networking event. I support the Smart STEMs charity. That's a charity that helps young people into STEM subjects, supported by one of my clients, Ceric. And I do a bit of work for Smart STEMs as well. At a supporters meeting of that, I had the pleasure of sitting next to Heather Donnelly of Scotland IS,
Yep.
Scotland is. And I was just explaining what my business was, what my ambition for the business was, what my needs were going forward, and just a little light bulb seemed to manifest itself above Heather's head, and she suggested that I speak to you regarding the ePlacement scheme. She gave me a brief outline about it. She didn't go into a huge amount of detail at that stage, simply just to encourage me to speak to you about the possibility of it. And it just seemed like a bit of a no-brainer. She explained that it would be necessary to join Scotland is as part of this, which looking at the range of services as an organisation you provide, again, it was another no-brainer. So I messaged Heather pretty soon after that chance meeting, and she put me in contact with yourself. So and was delighted to meet you in person about a week and a half afterwards.
Yeah, I think it was quite soon after, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. So for any of the potential employers out there, how would you describe the ePlacement Scotland service to them from your experience of it?
Well, I was apprehensive about recruiting. This is my first recruit as an organisation, and I think I'd held off from doing that for a combination of reasons. But chief amongst them was possibly there were so many parts to the process that not necessarily that I wasn't comfortable with, but there was trying to manage all these different components while still delivering the service, being a small enterprise. It always seemed like a massive learning curve. What ePlacement Scotland and what Scotland IS provided was that framework and the support that just removed all of those barriers. It encouraged me that it wasn't going to be as difficult as I felt it was. It provided the kind of services in terms of framing the job specification, the vetting of potential candidates. It took all the things that I had previously concerned myself about undertaking as part of a recruitment process, and they disappeared almost overnight. And as you know, to get the opportunity to go through those steps in a very simple fashion, I'll probably use the term no-brainer quite often, because that's the whole process was a no-brainer to me. I got everything that I wanted out of the process in terms of that recruitment, and it removed all the anxieties or the barriers that I may have had as part of it. And it was entirely seamless from start to finish.
That's good to hear, certainly from my perspective. Now, as part of the process, obviously, we provided you with CVs in response to the advert that you'd placed with us. How did you find the quality of the CVs that you'd received?
Good. I mean, it's there was after vetting, there were 3 CVs that got to me, and each of those CVs at least met the minimum threshold, and indeed, in fact, every single one of them, to a certain degree, was above what my expectation was. One above the expectation, one significantly above the expectation, another one far beyond the expectations. So, in terms of the strength of the candidates that were available, 100%, it was exactly what I was looking for. Indeed, far better than I ever anticipated. So, the quality of the candidates undoubtedly exceeded my expectation.
Excellent. I'm again pleased to hear that. Now, obviously, as part of your hiring process, COVID-19 had struck in the middle of that. And we went into lockdown, which obviously meant it was slightly difficult for a normal interview process to take place. We had some discussion regarding a video interview. What was your initial thoughts on that when that was suggested to you?
It was another barrier. It was at the time. It was an initial barrier. I felt that one of the things that would be very important, especially when hiring a first member of staff, was the rapport and that kind of ability to kind of see if you would fit in terms of personalities. And I had a concern that potentially doing it over a video conferencing kind of environment would prevent me properly identifying whether that rapport was there.
Mm-hmm.
The more I thought about it and the more I was encouraged about it. I mean, one of the important things was at no point was I put under pressure by you or the organisation saying, you must proceed in this fashion. They said, if you want to wait until lockdown is over, we can do that. If you want to proceed, we could do that, whatever suits you. And that was actually significant to me, because it went from a point where I thought, am I going to have to do this, even though maybe I'm not comfortable, to a point where I knew I was only going to go ahead with this when I was comfortable about it, about the process. And when I sat down and I really thought about it, I mean, I had been advocating for years and years that clients should take more Zoom calls and should use the technology available to them in order to, undertake meetings, let alone recruitment. It would seem silly of me not to take advantage of the technology in a situation where we positively absolutely needed to.
Yeah.
And the other side of it is simply in terms of accessibility. I mean, would I have been able to meet with these people ordinarily? Possibly, but the fact that it was done over a video conferencing platform potentially had the opportunity to open up this role to many other different people from further geographical locations.
Yeah.
So whether we're talking about the practical aspect of the end product being, it opens up to many other people, or just simply the fact that as an advocate of technology, I should be using technology to undertake these business functions, it became very much possible. And the result was fantastic. Again, it was rather than just doing phone calls in the initial, you got to meet and view body language and stuff like that in a way that you might not have had it just been a telephone conversation. And arranged very quickly as well. Because there wasn't that geography to overcome. It was just simply about having access to the internet. So at the very outstart of it, at the very start of the process, some anxieties about it, but the result was fantastic.
Okay, brilliant. Certainly from my perspective, I'm delighted to hear that you didn't feel pressured into making that decision. I think that's one of the aspects of the service that we've tried to promote most is that we really are, there for the employer, and it's what's best for them. Because at the end of the day, it's your business and your organisation, so that the decision has to be yours, made by yours, without your hand being forced. So I'm very pleased to hear that you didn't feel pressured into making that decision.
Well, I mean, if you consider, I mean, there are very, very good recruitment specialists out there, and there are ones that are less good, and the less good ones are the ones that probably do kind of force your hand on things and pressure you to make these decisions. You guys took a very mature, very reasonable approach to it, and that was very much welcomed. So I'm grateful for that.
Glad to hear that. What would you say was the kind of negative of undergoing the kind of video interview process? Or were there any negatives to the video interview process?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a negative. I mean, we've went through the process and we've had a successful conclusion to it. Again, I had concerns about being able to judge that rapport, and you may find further down the road that there are issues there that weren't properly accounted to. So, sorry, I think my phone just made a sound there. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a negative. It's certainly not negative at this stage, but you do still have concerns about whether or not that kind of rapport is there, because you've not spent a huge amount of time in the company. But then, even thinking about that, I mean, how much can you really gauge that in an actual meeting scenario as well? If you're meeting face to face, I think one of the features of any recruitment process is that people are on their best behaviour when you first meet them, and it will take a while for that to develop. But so the outcome of it, whilst I had concerns at the start, the outcome of it has certainly not been an issue in the slightest.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Do you think you would consider remote hiring again? Would it be something that you would do again in the future?
Oh, 100%, 100%. It would, for whether it is just the practical aspects of it, the fact that we've had a successful conclusion to this process, or even just the fact that as an advocate of technology, it would be hypocritical of me not to sort of be advocating this kind of approach. We've got the results that we wanted out of it. It was easy, it was quick, it was seamless. All these things are positives and are kind of reflective of the use of technology in general business scenarios, and so would be delighted to do it again in the same fashion.
Brilliant, fantastic. Could I ask you what you think is the best aspect of the ePlacement Scotland service?
It was the fact that because there were several things, several aspects to the process that either I hadn't considered or had considered and had reservations about, the fact that all of those were handled in a professional fashion, external to me. I got the advice. The vetting was done. It was the fact that all the barriers that I'd previously put up myself were just simply removed in a winner. And it was easy, it was fast, it was seamless. All these things were kind of thing. So it's the entire kind of seamless journey through the recruitment process from start to finish, particularly given that this was my first hire, was perhaps the key factor for me.
Good, fantastic. So would you be happy to recommend the ePlacement Scotland service to other employers?
Absolutely. 100%, whether through services like this, networking, LinkedIn articles, networking meetings, again, coming back to that word no-brainer, for the type of business that I am and the industry that I am, this has been the absolute perfect recruitment, and the time I am in terms of the business, in terms of being at the start of growth, to have access to the kind of candidates that I had and this kind of service I had, it was an ideal scenario. But it wouldn't just be to clients or to the network of people I know at the same size as me and same circumstance. I would recommend this to companies of all sizes. It was a fantastic function to be able to draw upon.
Okay, thank you very much, Alasdair. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me this afternoon. It's been greatly appreciated, and I'm very pleased to hear that you've been a fan of the service, and look forward to working with you again in the future if the opportunity arises.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's genuinely, I see working with Scotland IS Scotland as an ePlacement Scotland as being a strategic, avenue for this kind of recruitment. It's not only as an organisation as Scotland IS impressed me in terms of the breadth of the services, but things like this, individual kind of components of this, it's really, really made a difference. And so I'm grateful to you guys. I'm grateful to Heather for introducing. I'm grateful to your colleagues that I've subsequently met. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I'm genuinely an advocate of you guys and everything you do. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Would you like to take 5 or 10 minutes to tell everybody about your organisation and the types of things that you might be able to do for other employers out there?
Sure. So my organisation is called Multipliedby. I'll not take 5 minutes. I'll try and keep it to an elevator pitch in that respect. So my company is called Multipliedby. I work between creativity and technology and communications. We deliver creative services from brands, web, print, and audiovisual design, and harness technology and communication technology to be able to get messages out in a very kind of targeted fashion. We work with companies of all sizes. We have clients in the technology sector and the charitable and third sector. Mm-hmm. We've got clients in fast-moving consumer goods, in business to business, and quite often working with high growth companies as well, in particular. The reason that we are successful as an organisation is the agility that we're able to deploy, because we've got a small team who are invariably multidisciplinary in their skill set. It means that we can achieve a lot with a very little amount of time and to a high degree of quality. So we work with clients such as Incremental Group, CERIC Systems in terms of technology area. We work with the University of Glasgow, the University of Strathclyde in terms of the third sector. And we work with charities such as Smart Stems, all of whom have relevance within the network of technology companies that Scotland IS represents. Delighted to be members of Scotland as well, and look forward to benefiting from all of the wider services that the organisation provides. And if we can be of an aid to that organisation or the membership, we would like to speak to you. So if you're interested in seeing some of the work we've done, you can check out our websites at www.multipliedby.com. And my name is Alasdair Currie, and I'd be happy to hear from you.
Well, thank you very much, Alasdair. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you this afternoon. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Nick.